A-E-1 short.
I'm Patrick Linehan. I'm a music video director based in Brooklyn. Yeah, so I first started making movies and films as a child. I think the most viewed thing I've ever made is for this Japanese pop star named Ayumu Imazu. We made a music video together for his song that was kind of already going viral. So that now has like 10 million views or something on YouTube or something like that. So that's probably the most popular one. And this is At Some Time, Somewhere for AT1 Radio. Yeah, so I first started making movies and films as a child. I remember one of the first ones we made was called Ladle Killer 4, and famously there was no Ladle Killer 1, 2, or 3, you know? So we started with 4, much like George Lucas and Star Wars, and so we were making it on my family's DV cam, editing it in Windows Movie Maker. I remember that we couldn't figure out how to get music in, so we would like record directly over the audio files from the camera. And so we started making movies then. We made YouTube videos, prank type things. And so I think that kind of started off my like ability to edit and my like familiarity with the camera and how it works. Yeah, so I think, you know, as in childhood, it was very much like I love to kind of imagine things, play with worlds and try to world build in like my head. I was very much like a kid who liked to play alone in the yard, you know, and like make up entire like fantasy worlds. And so I like to do that in film too, you know, like I love to kind of build these characters and these like these conflicts. But then, yeah, in school, I was very much focused on learning how to, you know, do really well in math and science, and I also found a lot of success there. You know, I was definitely one of the class president type, the type to be involved in student government, very much studying hard and getting, you know, trying to get really good scores on the SATs, and you know, and so yeah, I think like for me, it was a kind of this paradigm of like in school, I was very much like regimented and learning to try to get the best grades, the best test scores, etc. But outside of it, I was definitely like also trying to tap into my creative. But I think in high school and early parts of college was very much like had kind of let go of the creative side in a way that I felt like I had always been rewarded more for my ability to get good grades and good test scores. You know, I think just generally we reward like academic achievement more than we might reward like creative achievement. But yeah, like looking back, like definitely was like won a state competition for a photo I took at like in 5th grade, you know, like that kind of thing was like very early on. Like I like was also felt like I was skilled in that. But I guess, yeah, in culturally, we don't reward that as much as we reward like a 1550 on the SAT. Yeah, so actually, and funny enough, I went into college for economics. Like, we thought I wanted to be like an economist and like, you know, go down that route. Famously, well, we can get into The West Wing if we want, but I like watched The West Wing and thought I was going to be like, you know, a scientist. A senator or the president or something. You know, much like Jeb Bartlett as an economist from New Hampshire, in that show. And yeah, I don't know. Like within the first year, I realized that I wanted to switch into journalism, so I switched into journalism there, and that was like a kind of a step in the direction of more like storytelling, narrative kind of stuff, you know, writing a lot, try to tap back into that creativity that I had kind of let go of in my early or late years of high school. And so I started doing that, and then I started hanging out in the kind of the DIY music scene at Syracuse. There were several kind of in the basement music venues with, you know, bad speakers and, you know, probably pretty bad music for the most part. But like at the time, freshman year, like Claro was at Syracuse and like was playing in these basements and in these attics. And there's several other this band called Shallow Alcove that's doing really well right now, who's kind of came up in that scene. And this other artist named Charlie Berg, who also is like really well renowned now, but was playing in these basements when I was there. So it was like a lot of fun. There was a lot of energy around it, a lot of excitement. And so, yeah, I think like I spent a lot of time there and met a lot of people, and yeah, we ended up just started like making music videos. You know, they were like, oh, we're coming out with this song, like let's make a music video. And so that's kind of how I got into that world. And I just happened to have like the muscle memory from when I was a child on this DV cam to like pick up a Canon Rebel and start and hit the record button. And so yeah, that's kind of how it started. The first music videos I was shooting was with a band called No New Friends that no longer exists anymore. And we were shooting. I happened to live with this band, and we were shooting during COVID in our house that we rented in that 2020 era. And I think the move to the move to New York was natural because my best friend, who's still my best friend, Jackson August, who's also an amazing musician, grew up here. And all his friends grew up here, obviously. And so to me, it was like I felt like I had a network here of musicians and just friends who I knew if I kind of landed here, I would find that community pretty quickly, which is kind of how it worked out. And so, yeah, I think I moved here because kind of it was the natural progression with the people I had been working with. Most of them were either from here or coming here after college. And so it was just kind of like go with the band, if so to speak. And so, yeah, I think the voice, as far as finding my voice, like I feel like my voice as a director is still very much developing, but I think it's really based on like a combination of like what we consider to be like high-end music video work and social content. I think obviously these days it's content. And so I think, and I a lot of people think that's a bad thing. I maybe think it's a bad thing to some extent, but I also think it's a beautiful thing in that like we should take the tools that we have at our disposal and try to make something, the best thing we can make out of it. And so we're lucky enough to live in a generation where like if we post something good on TikTok, it can get 500,000 views in 24 hours, and like we can make those impressions. And so I try to like lean into that a little bit and try to make content or try to make music videos that also speak to that content world, because like we are lucky enough to live in that space in some ways, and in other ways it's bad, but I think you got to live with what you have. And so yeah, and so that's kind of like the voice I developed. I think it has happened over like several kind of viral moments, kind of figuring out what works and how to get people's attention and how to like keep it, and how the video can contribute to the artist's growth and get more ears on a project, you know what I mean? And so yeah, there's a few I've done a few like EP or album trailers for artists that have gone viral. And so it's a little bit explaining about their life. It's a little bit of explaining about the kind of the process behind the music, kind of edited well and with a little bit of storytelling. There's one with Jackson that I mentioned earlier for his EP called 23, in which he talks about like growing up and getting more responsibility, et cetera, kind of filmed in a stylistic way where at the end he gets hit by a car. And so that went viral. And another thing, the most viewed thing I've ever made is for this Japanese pop star named Ayumu Imazu, who's amazing. I feel like Americans don't know him that well, but he's very popular in Japan, and he lives in Bushwick for, half the time. And so we made a music video together for his song that was kind of already going viral, before it even came out. And it was his first like English song. And so that now has like, I don't know, 10 million views or something on YouTube or something like that. So that's probably the most poppin' one. But yeah, I think Royal Otis I just filmed with recently. They're obviously a band who's like amazing. I've been a fan of them for so long, but in the last year or so, they've done some covers and they've gone viral a few times and gotten a lot of fans. And so they just sold out a US tour. They just sold a Europe tour and like playing, 2,000, 3,000 people rooms. And so we filmed their concert at Brooklyn Steel, which was fun. It was fun to work with a team, and getting into the live stuff is a blast because I love going to concerts. And so you get to do that for free, or you get to get paid to go to concerts. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think for me, it's like, I try not to overthink, right? Like for me, it's like we come up with a general plan, we come up with an idea, but I'm really open to new ideas as we're shooting. Like I want to be like brainstorming as we're on the set. For me, like, I think usually it's like we have a shot list of, six places we want to go or 6 shots we want to get. And then I want at the end of the day to have 10 or 12, you know what I mean? Because I think as we're in the mode, in the process, we have our eyes open, especially in New York. I feel like things can just pop out and like really influence the project. And it might be a rainy day, and it might be it might be a sunny day, or whatever it may be. And so I think for me, it's like somewhere in between, like planning every shot and not having a plan at all. It's like my sweet spot. And so, yeah, I think I've done these long days, but I'm also I'm a big fan of like picking a concept and sticking with it. Like, I think it speaks a lot to like artists' confidence in themselves, or like my confidence in myself, to be like, we're going to do this one idea and stick to it in a way that we don't have to overcomplicate things, or make it too hard, because it shouldn't be that hard. It should feel fun and natural in the process. And I often think, like, because I came from documentary world, that like my work often reflects documentary, right? It's like, okay, it's a song about, going upstate and having a good day. Like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to go upstate and have a good day, right? And like have cameras on it, you know what I mean? And so there's a few music videos like that where it's just like, we're going to get friends together, we're going to laugh, we're going to run around, we're going to go to these 3 locations, but we're just going to see what happens when we get there, that kind of thing. And I'm really proud of those, because it often, it's like capturing that joy and that excitement, or that whatever it is, whatever the emotion is, without having to like be so kind of specific about it.
AE1 short.
At Sometimes Somewhere is produced by Audio-Technica for AT1 Radio. It is recorded at AT1 Studio at Technica House, New York. Follow AT1 Radio and Audio-Technica USA on all social media platforms. Thanks for listening.